Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Jones, and welcome to episode 85 of That Gives Me Anxiety. Got the New York Jets jersey on here, Wayne Corbett. Looks like it's choking me here. And for those of you just listening, no, I look awesome. The Jets are reporting a training camp this week. They're going to be on Hard Knocks, which, if you're not a football fan or not from the United States, is gibberish. It's gibberish. But if you're not a sports fan, team could be good this year, which is very rare. We're never good. So the hopes are high. Let's say having a good week here. I'm playing all the after work beer league sports these days. Hockey, beach volleyball, and now kickball. It's so fun. I mean, I don't know how long I'll have this much free time to do these things, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. Sometimes I like suppress my competitive nature, but when you're in like a more competitive league and everyone's competitive, it's totally fine, right? It's to like try as hard as you can, and that's very satisfying. That even if you're losing, did you try? Did you have fun? No, but there is something to it. It's kind of cliche and corny to say, but because winning is great. But yeah, it's felt good to get on some more teams and play some more sports and to be social. Ready for this segue? Well, because today's episode is about being social. Social media. Don't worry, I understand how painful that was to hear. Social media is blamed for a lot of anxiety these days, and right or wrong, I wanted to explore that topic. And so I invited back Dr. Fallon Goodman, who is a professor at George Washington University. She's been on the show before. I think her episode was social anxiety. Yeah, so she's offering kind of a different perspective on how social media affects us and what comes first, anxiety or social media use. And then I also have on my friend Sylvester, who is arguably the most talented improviser in all of Charleston, South Carolina. These are facts. And yeah, so I talked to Allie about her social media use as well as being a parent and having to manage her children's social media use and navigating issues that her parents didn't really have to navigate, right? So yeah, a lot of good information and a good, healthy discussion. Before we get to the interviews, I just want to remind you, if you're liking the show, to please remember to rate and review it. 5 stars on whatever platform. It's always helpful in the algorithm. You can check the show out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Threads. Are you done with Twitter and Elon? Now there's Threads. I can't tell if Zuckerberg and Musk are actually going to fight, but what a world. What a time to be alive. I kind of hope it happens, but it's also like, I also don't. I feel like any of those pay-per-views are like always rip-offs. And it's like, is that really what we want to be doing? Watching 2 billionaires punching each other? I don't know. If you want to make a donation to the show, you can through the Buy Me a Coffee link. The link is in the description. And don't forget my partnership with Pure Spectrum CBD, who offer the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off your order. So yeah, now I think it's a good time to start talking about social media. So why don't we make our way to the interviews? As always, thank you so much for listening and enjoy. Oh, and I forgot to mention this is a 2-parter. So this is only half of the discussion. Make sure you come back next week for more. Just slipping this in here before I go to the interviews. Joining me now on the podcast to talk about anxiety related to social media and in all its forms is Sylvester, who is arguably the best improviser in all of Charleston, which is saying a lot because we got some good ones here. But yeah, I'm such a huge fan of your work, Allie.
Wow, that is so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I disagree, but thank you so much.
Well,
You're right up there with all the best.
Yeah, you're being humble is a big part of that package because improv requires like a little humility. So I think that all ties into it.
Yeah, believing we all suck is probably what makes us good.
Yeah, and probably why we don't do stand up.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, giving you a second to introduce yourself to the listeners, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you got going on and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So I am fortunate enough to do improv with Pat at Theater 99. I'm also an instructor there. And during my day life, I teach kids improv, mostly middle schoolers. Teach kids improv, and the drama teacher at the Cooper School.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be so much fun teaching improv to kids. It's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
difficult part is in with adults is like getting them back to a sense of play, but kids are locked and loaded for that.
Oh, absolutely. I love some of the ideas they come up with. It's mind-blowing. It's so much more creative than adults.
Oh man, that sounds so fun. I would love it. I would love to teach. I have done a bunch of like corporate workshops, but I've never taught kids. That sounds like it would be just pure magic.
It's fun, especially when it works. It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Shifting towards our topic here, social media. Tell us a little bit about your social media use. Has it changed over time, or where are you
With social media right now.
It's changed drastically.
Mm.
I was man standing to have Facebook, I feel like. I didn't get it until I joined the theater. Brandy
Oh,
actually talked
wow.
me into getting it. It's like, all right. So that was about 13 years ago. Same push away Instagram. Finally, I got like an account where I can look at things, because then so many things were being passed around where I couldn't see. So I was like, okay, I'll just do like a creeper account. And then, one thing leads to another. But my usage through this past decade is like one of those charts you see at the pediatrician, just like a growth chart straight up, which I hate about myself.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I thought you
Oh,
were going to
yeah.
say it was like a stock chart, right? Like
Oh,
up and back. Like that's definitely what mine has been, where I like hit a limit and then it cascades down and then trickles up and then But that's interesting
that's
that
great.
you have kept up with
Yes.
it.
Well, I feel like I don't even know if kept up with it is the right way. That makes it sound like it's productive. I feel like for a while, Facebook was manageable. Do you remember when it used to even say, this is all for today? Or like, you've seen everything? Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Yes.
Uh, that's not a
No
good
longer.
feeling.
No,
Yeah.
now it's just infinite. And it's just, I scroll so fast, I don't even know if I'm taking it in, which is not good for us. But I think after the pandemic and as I got a nicer iPhone, it's like these past couple years I've fallen for it all.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about being locked in your house for 2 years during the pandemic that like lends itself towards social media adoption, right? Like I don't think I would have downloaded like TikTok if it wasn't
Yeah.
for the pandemic, but it was inevitable.
Oh, I still am fighting that one, but it doesn't even matter because reels, like
Hmm.
it just, and I know we'll talk about it later with when we hear Dr. Goodman, but it really is, you said, it's so numbing. It's like this vicious cycle.
Hmm.
I grab it to just procrastinate or because it's numbing, and
Hmm.
then I'm overwhelmed. And so I just scroll more. It's a bad cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, it is. Do you ever feel this is something like as a comedic performer? I felt like the need to like I used to post like a lot more like sketches, like characters, like
Mhm.
funny memes. Like do you feel or have you ever felt like that pull?
To post.
Yeah.
So not only that stuff, I don't feel any pull to post. It's
Oh,
weird. And I think
good.
it's like generational. I think that I'm right on that cusp. Like in my 40s, I made it so far where I don't have that part of me that grew up sharing anything like that?
Mhm.
So, but I'm still like in the generation where we use our phones for everything. So
Right.
I don't have any of that desire to share any of my stuff. I still think taking pictures of oneself is strange. But I also recognize that that's fine. It's a generational thing.
Right.
Yeah, mine's more taking it in and being the voyeur.
Just watching. Yeah.
Just watching. How creepy can I sound?
Well, that's good. I mean, that's part of my anxiety with social media is that I feel okay now, though it is like posting for this podcast. I post for this podcast way more than I would in my like social life. I
Yeah,
don't really want to
that's different.
share myself. Like, I wish I could just create something that was like completely anonymous and that like no one I ever would know would post, and like that freedom would feel fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like aware of like the implication of someone taking something the wrong way or
Oh, same. That's part of
yeah.
the reason that, or with me sounding like an idiot. As shallow as that sounds, I am so afraid of sounding like an idiot and it living forever that it keeps me back, holds me back.
That's the thing. Yeah, it does live
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this about me, but I used to have a job where I made like internet clips where I would like write jokes based on the news, and I made like thousands of clips, and
Oh,
those
I
are
didn't know
on
that. That's
YouTube still.
awesome.
Yeah,
How
it
does
was
that
a
make you
fun.
feel when you watch them?
It's painful. I like try to forget that they're all out there, but they are. Patrick Jones, Buzz 60, go have fun making fun of me writing
I know
very
what I'm
topical
doing tonight.
jokes. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I couldn't think about it. Like, they were all okay. Here's the news story that was assigned to you. Write your first thought, telling the news story, and like add a few jokes, and then that's it. There was no like revision process. It was just like an instant thought,
Yeah.
like out forever.
And out forever. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And there's
So wait,
ones
that
that
was
I
a
definitely
job?
regret.
Or someone had you do that, or you thought of this idea?
Someone had me do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. I
yeah,
could be pushed to do, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's even makes me feel better about it than having it be my own idea. But I often think, thank God they didn't have this when I was younger. I would have made such stupid videos or posted such dumb pictures.
hmm
So I'm
yeah.
pretty
If you
grateful I'm
like
not going to
looking
get stuck in that.
right, if you look back at like when I was in high school, they had like I'm exaggerating here, but like the digital cameras, right? And like
Oh,
when I
yeah.
look back on those albums, it's like thank God there was no Instagram.
I know, absolutely. And also remembering those cameras, I had this thought today when I was listening to this. Imagine like getting your 24 photos developed and it's 24 photos of you. And
Right.
right? We would have like 24 photos of our friends or where we went.
Right.
Imagine it being 24 photos of you just with different chin angles.
or like pictures of your brunch, just like
Yeah. Oh my
many
God.
ways to have eggs. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be insane.
Well, cool. I think it's a good time for us to go to the first clip. For the audience, I also interviewed Dr. Fallon Goodman, who's been on the show before talking about the Sunday scaries. And yeah, let's jump in with what a psychologist thinks about social media. Joining me again for the second time, I have Dr. Fallon Goodman, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences at George Washington University. Did I get all that right? I mean,
you did. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me back. Thanks for letting me back on the show. I'm glad that all of the cursing the first episode didn't dissuade you from me coming back for round two.
Of course, yeah. I feel, being from, I think you mentioned you're from New Jersey. I'm originally from Long Island. Like, cursing makes me feel comfortable,
It's just who we are. It's in our blood. Like, there's no other way around it.
Right.
I can't stop, and I don't want to stop. So I'm gonna keep it rolling, and hopefully everyone's cool with it.
You're right. I bet they will be. Well, we're going to be talking today about the anxiety associated with social media. And I'm curious, is this something that, people come to you for all manner of reasons? How many people it's like the cause of, or I'd imagine they're not suggesting that like, oh, I'm on social media too much. But if you ask them the question, they're probably like, oh yeah, I use it all the time.
This is a big topic. It's a hot topic, and there's so much nuance that is lost in conversations in the popular press about social media. The first thing just to say off the bat is most individuals, especially young adults, use social media every single day. Mm-hmm. So it's not this subgroup of people that are using specific, like back in like I think it was like high school, chat rooms were a big thing. And then instant AIM, instant messaging, and then MySpace and Facebook. So social media has been around for, a couple decades. Mm-hmm. And at this point, across demographic strata, across age groups and racial groups, people use social media. And so that's the starting point, that we're not talking about a subgroup of people, and also that this is now a regular part of our daily lives. And so the questions need to be, somewhat more nuanced than where we started maybe with this research 20, 30 years ago of, is social media use good or bad? Or how is it bad? So just to get to the heart of it, the reality is that there are many downsides to using social media, and there are many upsides to using social media. It is not a one size fits all. And when we're talking about the implications on mental health, it's easy to make social media the bad guy. So we've seen rates of mental illness increasing in the United States and globally. I mean, the pandemic is obviously a big contributor to recent data, but even before the pandemic, the rates are rising. And so those rates also coincide with social media use. And so the easy target is big tech. It's platforms like Facebook, it's platforms like TikTok. And we have to be a little bit careful about jumping to the assumption that there's a 1-to-1 ratio between time spent using social media and negative mental health.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, because if you ask anyone in small talk conversation, they'd be like, social media is ruining like the fabric of our society. But it's nice to hear that you think that we have a little bit more control, not to put words in your mouth. That's kind of what I'm taking from it.
So a lot of the data, not all of it, but most of the data is cross-sectional, meaning that we take a group of people and we ask about their depression, their anxiety, their health, and then we ask about their social media use. What we find oftentimes, I'd say maybe the majority of the studies, is the more time spent using, the worse mental health. The question is, which way is the directional arrow going? Is it that people are using social media more, which is leading to worse mental health? Or are people with worse mental health using social media as a way to cope, as a way to find friendships, as a way to feel connected and feel like their lives is meaningful? And right now, we simply do not have enough data to say confidently either way. And it's possible it's both directions, or maybe it's one. And there's certainly, so you're fishing and I'm going to bite. Let's talk about some of the negative implications of social media. Okay, so for one, if you're spending a lot of time on social media, like let's just talk about time, let's say several hours a day, then that time spent is coming at the expense of doing lots of other things. We're busier than ever, so it might come at the expense of being productive at work. It might come at the expense of interacting in person with other people, with exercising. I mean, everyone loves a good exercise excuse, but and the best one is I don't have the time. But if you deconstructed your day and like for how many minutes did you scroll Instagram today, you could probably have worked out in that time, speaking for myself and probably other people. So if you're also using social media as a way to replace the absence of social relationships, to fulfill this bucket of your life that is unfulfilled, you might get some benefit. You might feel connected using social media, but it's never going to replace in-person interactions. And we find this data in the lab where when people interact on social media, we do see a reduction in loneliness. So there's an inverse correlation, which is good, but it's much more powerful when the interactions are in person. And so unfortunately, as we've experienced with the pandemic, there's simply no replacing in-person interactions. Zoom, thank you, Zoom, for being a nice stand-in. Now, as you know, we're in the new phase of the pandemic, I think it's important that we're also finding ways to reconnect in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk? I know you've got a lot on your plate. You've got work, you've got friends, you've got family, pets, you've got the people that you make small talk with at the coffee shop or gym. You've got that bird that you see when you wake up every morning outside your window that you've projected things onto. Look at that bird. Doesn't even love its family. It's always by itself. You do that. Everyone does that. Point is, you've got a lot on your plate. Well, that's why there's Instacart, to take a little bit off your plate. Using Instacart, you search for all your favorite foods and things that you need from the grocery store, all online, all while you're looking at that bird, wondering why it hasn't called its mom. And they deliver it to you. They go to the store and do the shopping for you. And they can deliver it in as fast as an hour. And you can sign up by clicking the link in the description, wherever you're listening or watching. And that's a great way of supporting the show. So it's a great way of supporting this show. It's a great way to make your life a little bit easier, because we all know that you have so much going on, like wondering whether that bird judges you back. I really enjoy speaking with Fallon. I mean, she has such a matter of fact and like lightheartedness while also delivering important, like well thought out arguments for everything that she's saying. And she has some really good reminders here, like about how there's like nuance lost when we're talking about social media, that it's not like a subgroup. It's like literally, maybe not literally, but pretty much every single person is on this, right? And we're quick to sort of make social media the bad guy, but that may not be the case. And so I'm curious your thoughts on, in the interview we were talking about like the chicken or the egg, which comes first? Is it mental issues or illness or whatever it is, or social media use? Like, which comes first? I mean, not that you're going to speak for everybody, but I'm curious like what that thought inspires in you.
Yeah, well, I think that it could be obviously different situations for everybody, but I loved hearing Dr. Goodman be positive about it in a way too. I feel like I
Yeah.
need that. We have such a doom and gloom society. And so it's nice to hear, like you were saying, she's just to the point, but has a refreshing take on it. I don't know which came first for me. I feel like they go hand in hand, like we talked about earlier. Feeling unmotivated, reach for phone
Mm-hmm.
makes you, or social media makes you unmotivated. But I do get a little bit angry at the social media companies, or even if we can expand that to phones. I do think that the user has all the responsibility for their own health and life, right? But also, when is enough enough? Because
Mm-hmm.
we've learned so much about this like addiction, right? And this dopamine cycle. And when will they ever say, okay, we're as big as we are going to get, where we have as much money as we need? When do we start looking out for humanity? Or I have a hard time blocking anything. I know that Dr. Goodman was talking about all these ways. She made it sound so easy, but I can't tell you how many times I've uninstalled Facebook and then felt the itch for it and just installed it again.
It's
It's
just
so
that easy.
easy,
Yeah.
you know? And so I feel like the phones, or are we allowed to say Apple?
Yeah.
Uh, all right, that fruit company or social media, someone has to make it easier where I can really control my usage.
That's a good point, right? It's like if you have an issue with alcohol, I mean, it's not easy, but like you can at least
Right,
get it out of your house. Like
right.
Facebook is, it's going to be tied into people's like refrigerators and stuff as like the Internet of Things continues to develop, right? It's like it's
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah, I know. And I've thought about going back to like a Razor flip phone. Wouldn't that be amazing? But
It
I use looking things up on my phone so much, it's just impossible. So yeah, like you're saying, with being able to get alcohol out all out of your house, you can't get rid of this completely.
right. Yeah. I mean, just can you go anywhere in your car from memory? Like there's like
No,
Theater 99 and
maybe there, yeah.
maybe that. Yeah, but
But I still like to
nowhere
check if
else.
their traffic.
That's the other. Yeah, it's like why wouldn't I check if there's traffic? Yeah, seriously.
Wait, got that call time.
Yeah. But you know, on the other side of the coin is that Fallon was talking about social media can take time away from other things, right? Like so
Yeah.
maybe we always feel like we're pressed for time.
Then if we look at our Instagram time, it's probably pretty high. Whereas, you know, I always think like, oh, I don't have time to do like a few yoga poses, which I've learned is extraordinarily helpful for my mental health.
Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, but yet I am on Instagram for an hour a day, whatever it is, right? It's just that part makes me feel bad because it's
Yeah, it eats up time quickly. I think we're all finding that out, and it's a bit embarrassing, but we choose, or I can't speak for everybody. I choose the easier thing. If scrolling on my phone makes me feel okay for the time being, it always makes you feel worse after all this stuff, we're talking about, but I'll choose that over those yoga poses, which sucks. I don't want to
yeah.
be that person.
I know. Yeah. It's also like at times it's easier to think of someone you want to reconnect with, and then instead of like being like, hey, like let's go get breakfast or whatever it is, but it's like instead, I'll just send them a meme, right?
Yeah, and that part's, and like you said, the hitting the like is so much quicker and easier. I do love being connected. I wish that it just stayed there. Just being able to check in on friends from college all around the world, briefly a couple minutes a day, and then it's done. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't fully work. Like, I don't get the same satisfaction of like reconnecting with a friend through Instagram messages or something like that, rather than like actually hanging out with them,
Oh yeah, no, never, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, I wanted to see, what was AIM big for you?
What is it?
AIM, like AOL Instant Messenger?
Oh. No, no. I feel like when was that? I feel like I was going, like, I remember the CDs coming out,
Yeah.
right? But I was in college or finishing, and so it just didn't really affect my life. I remember going to college and getting my first email address, like everything ended, with your college and then EDU, and I
Uh-huh.
remember not setting it up thinking like this is not gonna catch on.
I'm not betting on the internet here. Yeah.
Exactly. So don't listen to me. I was like, I'll just write letters for the rest of my life. This isn't gonna work. So no, AOL and chat rooms and all that stuff I missed, thank goodness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how I don't judge children now,
Yeah.
because I know how important that was to like my social standing. And
Oh yeah.
that there was also that time where it was like, if one of my sisters was using the computer, right? Because there was
Oh
one
yeah.
computer that everybody, it'd be like a fight. It'd be like, get off, I gotta get on there.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, so I have two sons now, and our oldest is 13, and he just got his phone when he turned 13, and it's been almost a year, and there's tons of fights in our house over it, but I can't even resist. So how can I expect him to?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're definitely going to dive into parenting with social media, because that is such a difficult task, and I'm curious about that. But I think it's a good time to go to clip 2, the last one for this episode, with Fallon. One of life's mysteries is that birthdays always find me unprepared, catch me unprepared. I don't go on Facebook as much, so I don't notice them as much. But I want to express my love and appreciation for friends and family. That wasn't part of the copy. I'm just saying it. Year after year, month after month. Even when I see it coming, I'm not ready. Am I a jerk? Yes and no. Why do things have to be so black and white for you? But I've got great news, friends. Introducing monthly card subscriptions from the Cardist studio. Join the service that delivers the card and the stamp that you'll need to your door. No more errands. Who wants more errands? I don't know why, but I'm starting to think of errands as a kid's name. Errands, go back to bed. Okay, but here's how it works. You choose your categories, from birthdays and celebrations to love and encouragement, or select their full collections and have those thank you notes and just because cards at the ready. Those ones are always so nice. Like when you get a card for doing something and it's just like a small little heads up or token of appreciation, it genuinely makes you feel really good. And best of all, you would never get caught cardless again. Let me repeat, you'll never get caught cardless again. Try to say that a bunch of times in a row. You'll never get caught cardless again. Monthly card subscriptions from as little as $8 per month for the card and the stamp. Delivered to you. TheCardistStudio.com, shop subscriptions. And you can use the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off your originating order. One of the ways, when I'm feeling particularly anxious, I feel like a call to Instagram and social media, right? It's almost like I'm shrinking my world because it's like simplifying. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of a tough thing, but why am I, not that you're ready to diagnose me here, but why might someone sort of close down and go towards the phone when they're feeling anxious?
So the benefit of Instagram is, to use that example, is it's a constant influx of information. You can essentially guarantee that the more you flip your finger, as long as you're flipping your finger, you will continue to see novel information. Mm-hmm. And humans are drawn to novelty for various reasons. But as you're scrolling, you're getting more and more, you're constantly getting information. What that's doing is just potentially distracting you from all of the other things you're thinking about. So people wake up, they say 2 a.m., they can't sleep. And I'm absolutely do this as well. You pick up your phone, maybe you're anxious about, so it's Sunday scaries, you're anxious about your Monday at work, and you pick up your phone and you start scrolling. It's a really nice distraction from your internal dialogue, from your anxiety. It also lasers you in on something other than yourself. So sometimes when people are anxious, especially if they have issues with panic attacks or have panic disorder, there's a lot of attention on their body. What was that heart? My heart kind of blipped. Is that a sign that something, I'm going to have a heart attack, or I feel a little dizzy? Am I going to pass out? When we're engaging with something like social media, where our attention, our visual attention is zoomed in on the phone, then it's serving as a really nice distraction of paying attention to other things like our internal dialogue and like the bodily sensations that we might be worried about.
Yeah, I always find that I feel worse. It's like those times where when you used to be really hungover and you'd open a beer the next day, right? It just feels like it's just like a mask, right? Because the anxiety is still there and it's potentially worse afterwards. And same thing with the hangover.
I don't know about you, Pat, but whenever I drink and then I have a hangover, one drink always helps. One drink is all it takes. And, there's a reduction in anxiety, but in all seriousness, once you sober up, the anxiety is always waiting around the corner.
Yeah.
We can take, anxiolytics, we can drink, use substances, and those are really helpful in the short term. They really are. Like, there's a reason why people seek out different substances to cope with their anxiety. Ultimately, at the other end of that, your anxiety is waiting for you. And oftentimes it's worse than before you used a substance or before you used social media. I think also, the constant scrolling can also in itself be calming. So it's sort of this repetitive thing. You're seeing information, in some ways it just serves as this reel that you can look at and calm your body down and calm your brain down.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. It's just
and so all this to say, like, one other point about this is, like, people think like, oh, I use social media too much and I should stop, right? I think many people, millennials and Gen Zers, have probably had this thought and this desire. And then the next thing is, well, I'm just not going to use it as much. And I'm going to maybe set a timer on my phone. This is the best, because it's like you set the timer on your phone and then it says, you've reached your amount. Do you want to keep going? You want to remind it 15 minutes? Do you want me to remind you the next day? And we just now habitually click, remind me 15 minutes, remind me today. And I just keep it rolling. Yeah. And so we shouldn't rely for any behavioral change, especially with something that feels addicting or feels like it's this ingrained pattern. We really shouldn't rely on our willpower. Humans suck at using their willpower. I mean, we
using
suck,
the gym, like you just said. Yeah.
Using the gym, like, we just are terrible. The way in which to really start a habit is, there's lots of tips, but one of them is to reconstruct your environment. So if you want to start working out more, you put your clothes out the night before, you schedule your class ahead of time, you make efforts preemptively, knowing that when you wake up and your alarm's off at 6 a.m. and it's freezing and dark, like when I was in Boston for a year, it was dark like the entire year. You wake up and the last thing you want to do is go into the cold and go work out. Yep. Or at the end of the day, it's 7 o'clock, the Yankees are on, you got an apple pie in the oven, and you're really going to take 30 minutes to go work out. Your willpower at that point, like
apple pie in the oven.
You should. If listeners take nothing else from this interview, it's that you should marry someone who's a really good baker. And then you have the benefit of, in the fall, every fall, it's apple pie, apple crumble. I don't even know what other sort of apple things, but I'm always the first taste tester, and it's the best.
Someone has to do that job, right?
Someone's got to do it. And unfortunately, exactly. I have zero baking skills or cooking skills. My Italian family is very disappointed in me.
Oh man.
So when we want to reduce how much time you're spending on social media, the answer is, oh, I'm just going to set a timer on my phone, or I'm going to use it less. It's more of delete the app from your phone. That's really scary for some people. Put the phone in the other room. Only use it at a certain time of day. Like, reconstruct your daily life, reconstruct your environment so that you do not have to rely on willpower. Because guess what? Your flimsy, crappy, ineffective willpower is fighting against thousands of engineers at these tech companies that are going to beat you every time.
Yeah, man, that's hilarious. I imagine like a workout trainer just being like, your willpower is trash. It always has been.
Like, just put it aside. Don't wait till you're motivated to do something. It's never, if you're leading with motivation, you're going to be inconsistent and never build a habit.
That's so true, right? Especially with like coming up with workouts and just like every change. You're right. I've never thought of it this way, but whenever I've been successful, I've set it up that way. Just like I forced myself to do morning workouts by like scheduling all my meetings afterwards. So if I don't do it, then I won't do it. And then I'll feel miserable. So,
and there are so many simple tricks. Like, I started using a workout app, and for the first time in my life since high school, I've been consistent about working out. And I'm like obsessing about, as a psychologist, about why this something finally, like, nothing really in my life changed other than now I have this app where they have pretty meaningless rewards, like 10 strength workouts, like 4 weeks in a row. And now I will not break my weekly streak. So it's this extra competition and motivation. They also give you the opportunity to schedule classes ahead of time. You can share it with other people. There's a diversity of classes. So all of these really simple things that they've taken from psychological science, really, and packaged it into app form. Behavior change isn't necessarily, the tools for behavior change are quite simple. It's a matter of putting them in place and sticking with them.
Good. Well, that's good to know that it seems as though we do, despite our weak willpower, that there are tricks and tips that can help us out. You alluded to something that I definitely feel that we have to touch upon here is there's all these developers who also know human psychology. Can you talk about like the reward? I feel like that's often what comes up about social media. It's like when we're talking about psychology is that we're getting some kind of benefit from it. So I'm curious what the actual story is there.
Yeah, there are a lot of psychologists that, especially PhD level psychologists with training in statistics and research design, who work for social media companies for various reasons, and they play various roles. I think one of the big ones is, how do we get humans to do certain things? And oftentimes that's, how do we get humans to keep using our product? Which, again, we cannot blame the social media companies. They are businesses that are trying to build their brand and product. So when it comes to some of the rewards of social media, first of all, as we already talked about, humans are drawn to novelty. And so on TikTok, for example, you can keep watching new videos for several hours in a row. Certain algorithms will make it so that you see videos that the algorithm thinks you're more likely to like or be interested in. And the more you watch them, the more the algorithm develops and builds to give you content that they think that you would enjoy. And so you keep watching, and the next reel is already queued up. Same with Instagram newsfeed and Facebook newsfeed. And so there's an expectation of what's around the other corner. Humans are curious people. We know if we keep scrolling, we'll see more things, and maybe we'll see something that is from an old friend. Maybe we'll see something, some sort of ad, by the way, that's helpful. I just bought a house, so I'm now all of my ads are like, here's a bed here. I've never thought more about comforters and duvet. It's like, I'm so overwhelmed, but the ads in some ways are helpful. So we complain often about advertisements, but several times I've seen ads like, oh, actually, I love West Elm. Let me see what their sheets look like.
Yeah.
So, but there's this expectation that new things will be coming, and some of those new things might be good. It's also the little notifications on Twitter or Facebook, that little red bubble. Many people will feel curious about what that notification represents. Is it something potentially important, interesting, exciting, from a friend, from a colleague? Is it praise? Is it photo? Is it a flashback? And so humans are curious, and they're going to be drawn to figuring out what's behind that curtain. I think another big one is social media helps us feel connected. It does. All of the high school friends that I really love and also don't really want to spend several hours per week catching up with, I can stay up to date on their lives. Maybe this is why I have like 4 friends in any given year, but I don't want to.
4 is all you need. That's great.
Maybe 4 is probably an overestimate. I'd say it's like 2 point, the average maybe like 2.4.
Yeah.
But Facebook and Instagram and these social media platforms offer a really nice low cost way to stay connected to other people in our lives, quite a large group, by the way. I mean, we joke about the number of friends, but the reality is friendships, especially in our adult lives, require effort. I mean, all relationships do, but when you're out of the bubble of high school or college where you have these built-in social structures, you then lose that, especially working from home, you lose those built-in structures and built-in opportunities to socialize with other people. And so then maintaining relationships really requires intentionality, requires time, requires effort. And so social media offers this really nice way to maintain those connections in a manner that just costs us so much less time and effort.
Oh yeah. Sending a pop and a quick like on something versus calling someone is
exactly. It's like, I
on.
still love you, Joey from 7th grade. Click, nice. See you in 2 years.
Right.
One other thing, by the way, so you brought up likes. I think another big conversation in social media is this idea of getting rewards from some sort of validation on the app, whether that's number of likes, number of shares, number of impressions on Twitter. And people oftentimes attach meaning to those numbers, to those indices. The more likes I have or shares I have, the more people like me, or the bigger the impact this given post made on people. And that's another conversation that needs to be had carefully, because I think one of the beauties of social media is that it really takes power away from a small group of people, a small group of influencers, and then in a lot of ways kind of gives it back to the people, gives it back to anyone who has information or content or a brand that people really care about. And when we're talking about athletes being able to create their own brand and to make money off of that, that's a really wonderful benefit of social media. Researchers sharing information that is often tied up in these pay for access journals. So the idea of attaching some sort of value to likes or shares or impressions, I think can cripple people. It can hold people back and feel like, oh, I failed on this post, or I'm not good enough. And it also reminds us that there is so much power in social media to make impact and to make meaningful change at societal levels.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. You heard it from a psychologist. Human willpower sucks. It makes me feel very validated, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that she said, don't wait for your willpower to do something. I need that painted on my wall. That's such a good reminder.
That is a good one. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. And like exactly what, like you were saying, right? I mean, combined with the willpower that Fallon was pointing out and the psychologists that work for these companies, it's like, it's sort of giving ourselves grace that there's a lot going against us here with social media use, that there's a reason why these companies are so successful, you know?
Yeah, you can't be mad at ourselves. Right. We're one of the millions, billions.
And so, you know, Fallon does go into a few of the ways that we might be able to change our social media habits. And that includes putting the phone in the other room, like if you're working or sleeping or just trying to get it away from you for a little bit. Do you think that that's something that you would take on, not being connected to it?
Absolutely. I would love to try more. I've a lot of those. Like we were talking about earlier, I feel like those are all pretty things. Those are easy things to break. So putting your phone away from you. I try and put it away from me and turn the ringer on, but it's still like there's often something I need to look up for the kids or what we're going to do. And then I check a text, and then muscle memory leads me to just 5 minutes later, I find that I'm still on my phone doing something. So that's tough. But I've tried downloading, there's this app, I forget what it's called, but you can, like, your plant will grow if you keep your phone down. Have you seen that?
No, that's awesome.
So
though.
like every minute that you don't touch your phone, your little plant grows.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
I know. Tried that for a week, but then it's just not realistic. I want some blocks, some serious blocks
Yeah, right.
that I
Seriously.
can't get through.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever keep it in the other room. Like the sleep aspect. I mean, it's the alarm clock, but also I like to go to sleep. I play Quirtle and Octurtle
Yep.
and cribbage on my phone, and like that has it's developed into a routine that like helps me fall asleep. Like as I'm doing it, I start to get sleepy, and that's so it's like why
That's
would I
fine if it
change that?
works for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I started listening to these really cool like hypnosis things if I wake up in the middle of the night, but again, that's on
Hmm.
my phone, so it takes my strength to choose the hypnosis over scrolling.
And what does it do? Is it just sort of like telling you a story or something like
Oh, it's
calming?
these wonderful people just telling you that everything's going to be okay over
Oh,
and over and
really?
over, and that you are falling asleep and you're in a deep sleep. And there's that nice hypnotic music behind it. It's awesome. I was scared of hypnosis, but I'm really into it.
I gotta try that because we've tried to like a lot of success. Jamie and I have tried like putting on like cricket noises or
Hmm.
like we couldn't do ocean waves because it just makes you feel like you have to pee, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but just like that calming like a summer. I mean, thankfully we also kind of have that here in Charleston, but
Yeah.
uh yeah.
Those never really held my attention. I know what you mean. Like those didn't do it for me, but I'll send
Hmm.
you these links of the ones I really
Please
enjoy.
do. Hey, we're always looking for a tip here.
Yeah.
So another thing that Fallon was talking about was like how much validation is attached to social media. I mean, you were saying that you don't really feel the pull to post. I mean, I definitely do. And especially for the podcast. And if a post doesn't do well, I judge myself and if Jamie and I go do something fun, I like to see that and we post something. It's nice to get a few likes and be like, oh, like it makes me think that person by liking it was like thinking of us, right?
Absolutely.
you
Yeah. Even
know?
the few times I do post, I certainly look who liked it. I look who loved it.
Yeah, it's whereas it's like realistically people can easily miss social media posts and people
Right.
have busy lives and yeah, I don't know why it gets so tied into like friendships where it's like yeah, you have to like my post.
Yeah, it really is something. That's having the 13-year-old. He's not on any social media. He's not into it, thank God. So that's not a
Oh
fight I have to
wow.
fight. Yeah, thank God. But he went through I have to have a YouTube channel phase. Probably still in it. And I would ask him all the time, like, well, will you turn off likes? Will you turn off comments? And he really wanted to have the likes. So we would talk about it. Like, what is it about this like culture that why will you feel one way if you get the likes versus if you didn't? And of course he wants the channel. So he's like, it won't change anything.
Yeah,
And in
I
my head, I'm like,
swear.
bullshit, kid.
Yeah. It boosts the likes and comments boost the algorithm, mom.
Right, right. That's still the same type of like you're getting that positive reinforcement from
Mhm.
people that you shouldn't need.
It makes
And
it
then,
even deeper, in fact, right? Like
yeah,
the fact that you need these to be successful, like it becomes a loop
right.
of, oh my goodness.
And it's just by chance too, that algorithm. It's just by chance that because the more likes you get, the more you're seen. So I don't know, it's not your worth.
Right, right. And it's so hard what a different conversation that you're having to have with your
Yeah,
son in that regard than I've never had a conversation like that with my mom, right? Like, why is your self-worth attached to this like digital thing?
right. I know it's a whole new world.
Do you think there like tools out there for parents to sort of begin to understand these because these things are new and challenging and like go really deep.
Yeah, they're relatively new, but I do feel like since he's not the very first set of kids, there is some information out there.
Oh, good.
This is another thing that keeps me. My algorithm is all like gentle parenting tech savvy parenting, stretching, gardening, and who knows, taco cats. I don't know, something weird thrown in there. But so that is out there and it's really nice. I've read some good stuff, but it's still, the future is unknown for what will grow when he's then in high school. It might be something completely different. And also there's a lot of fear mongering out there for parenting with tech. A ton of like, if your child uses Snapchat, they will be dead within a month. Like,
Yeah.
geez, wow,
Right.
that's
They're
a
sending
lot.
naked pictures of themselves to everybody, right? Yeah.
It
Like
is a
that's,
lot.
yeah.
And I try so hard. I'm like naturally, I think we've talked about Prozac usage. I'm just naturally so afraid of things, and Prozac really helps me with that I don't need to parent from a place of fear.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. If you're here for Prozac.
Oh yeah, it
I'm
has
the same
really
way.
helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah, let my children leave the house.
Yeah. Someone, I forget who it was, but someone at Theater 99 was like talking about, I would never take medication for anxiety. You know, I feel like it dulls you. And I was like, I just need to like jump in for a second here and say like, if I wasn't taking this, like there would be months where I wouldn't laugh. Like imagine that, you know, it's like, so
Yeah, that's such an
I,
unfair thing for them to say.
yeah,
And
but
guess
also
what? My fear needs to be dulled.
yes, right. If I could share it, I would, but yeah, no, it needs to be toned down a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. This is part one of a two-parter. So for the audience, definitely come back to hear more from Allie and from Fallon. Interesting question here for you. Would you like to mention any social media where people could find you?
Oh, I'm really only, no.
Yeah.
I'm just that creepy voyeur. I mean, I have a Facebook page, but no.
Yeah.
Am
That's
I the
great.
only person on your show that have said that?
No. There's been a lot of people who have actually said that. Even like
Oh, good.
some like traveling stand-up comedians that I've had on here have been like, no, I've been like doing some me time on social media and I don't want, like, it's for me now. Like I made it private.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just was interested in how you would respond to the question, considering
Thank
the
you for
subject matter.
asking.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. But yeah, no, I don't really have any links to my name or anything.
That's great. Well, come on out to Theater 99, where you could see the great Allie Sylvester.
And the great Pat Jones.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, just a reminder that was part one of this two-part series on social media use and its relation to anxiety and how we can improve our relationship with social media and thus anxiety. I don't know why I said it like that. Thank you so much to Fallon and thank you to Allie. Before I get to the weird thing causing me anxiety this week, I just want to remind you of the Buy Me a Coffee link, just a way to make a tip or a donation to the show. Link is in the description. Thank you to everyone who has contributed in that way. It's super helpful. Also, don't forget the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off at Pure Spectrum CBD. If you want to sign up for home delivery of groceries, you can through Instacart by clicking the link in the description. You're telling Instacart that this show sent you, which also helps support the show. And the Cardist Studio also offers the promo code AnxietyPod for 15% off your initial order. So yeah, supporting the sponsors helps support the show and helps me keep making these. Okay, weird thing caused me anxiety this week here in Charleston, the South. I mean, apparently everywhere. It's hot, right? It's humid as hell here too. And I've always been a sweater. Sweat a lot. And I'm from the north, right? And coming down here, body is acclimating a little bit, but still, I mean, it is oppressively hot. And so yeah, I'm always like super conscious of what I'm wearing. If I'll be able to like, if I walk too much, I'll get sweaty. If I need to know where the air conditioning is, and it just like makes me anxious because I don't want to look like just like a sweaty slob. But it's so hot here that you just have to surrender. I mean, there's just at points there's just nothing you can do. But that's difficult for me. It's difficult for me to do, and something I'm actively working on. But yeah, you know, you go out on Saturday and try to go to dinner and then like walk around a little bit. You don't want to look like a puddle. It's really nothing I can do about it. But yeah, there's a lot of colors I won't wear because I'm nervous of how I would look. Darker colors usually are the way to go. And that's also a fear I have of my wedding party. If I'll just be a sweaty mess, but whatever. I'm taken. Who am I trying to impress? Oh, man. I'm saying that, but I don't mean it. I just want to look normal. I just want to fit in. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Come back for part 2 next week, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.